Nicholas Marcus Thompson is an award-winning human rights advocate and non-profit executive recognized for his diplomacy and data-driven approach to combating systemic discrimination in Canada. As president of the Union of Taxation Employees Toronto North, he represents workers at the Canada Revenue Agency and has held various elected roles in Canada's labour movement. In 2020, he mobilized federal public service workers to file a $2.5 billion class action lawsuit against the federal government for discrimination against Black employees. In 2021, he became executive director of the Black Class Action Secretariat, and in 2024, he was appointed president and CEO. Thompson's advocacy has led to significant policy changes, earning him accolades such as the Bob Marley Humanitarian Award and the Bromley Lloyd Armstrong Award from the Toronto and York Regional Labour Council. He holds a degree in Labour Studies from the Labour College of Canada.
A manager at the Immigration and Refugee Board said to me, "We should go back to the good old days when we had slaves."
I've done a total of 37 years with the RCMP. I never got a promotion.
It is an environment that is so unjust. I was hospitalized because of that stress, just thinking of going to work.
Meanwhile, my white colleagues were receiving promotion after promotion, while myself and other Black colleagues were sitting there stuck.
There are new revelations tonight of widespread discrimination at the highest levels of Canada's public service.
A secret federal report reveals entrenched racism in the Privy Council office.
An internal review has found that Canada's human rights watchdog discriminated against its own employees.
A significant finding that the Canadian Human Rights Commission, the federal body whose mandate is to protect equal opportunity, discriminated against Black and racialized employees.
We have a breaking story to tell you about this hour. CBC News has learned that Black members of the civil service, the Canadian Public Service, both current and former members, have launched a lawsuit against the government.
The suit aims to represent tens of thousands of employees alleging decades of anti-Black discrimination.
Specifically, that they faced discrimination in the hiring process and went up for promotions dating back to the 1970s.
This is a major development, a significant, a landmark case that has implications for organizations and institutions across the country.
Let me introduce you to Nicholas Marcus Thompson. He is the man leading this class action and has been relentless in pursuing justice.
In 2020, Nicholas Marcus Thompson led the launch of the Black Class Action, a $2.5 billion class action lawsuit against the Canadian Federal Public Service on behalf of thousands of Black workers.
The Canadian government is now on notice. It cannot claim to be a global leader in human rights while discriminating against its own right here at home.
Under Nicholas's leadership, the Black Class Action Secretariat built a movement through the Coalition Against Workplace Discrimination, uniting workers, unions, and advocacy groups across the nation to combat racial injustice.
The Black Class Action Secretariat are seeking justice for Black Francophone Canadians.
The Black Class Action Secretariat has filed an official complaint with the UN Commission for Human Rights.
Canadian Human Rights Commission is being called to task. A coalition led by the Black Class Action Secretariat has filed a formal complaint with the international body that accredits human rights organizations around the world for discriminating against its own employees.
The BCAS has been instrumental in achieving historic gains for Black workers in the federal public service. Thanks to their relentless advocacy, the number of Black executives has more than doubled between 2020 and 2023, rising from 99 to 207. The fastest increase in Black leadership within any 3-year period. In addition, the BCAS secured a $50 million fund dedicated to mental health and career development, providing critical support for marginalized workers. Anti-racism secretariats were also established across the public service, creating institutional frameworks to ensure voices previously silenced are finally being heard and represented.
As part of global reparatory justice, Canada and other member states must create permanent structures such as Ministries of African Affairs, Black Equity Commissioners, and employment equity legislation.
The root part of the problem here is the Employment Equity Act. We're seeking an amendment to designate Black people as a separate category.
Most recently through the instrumental work of the BCAS, as well as the collective efforts of many advocates, progress has been made toward the historic proposed recognition of Black workers in Canada's employment equity legislation.
We are naming Black people and LGBTQI+ individuals as designated groups under the Employment Equity Act. This is historical.
The leadership of the BCAS and Nicholas Marcus Thompson is not only bringing justice to thousands of workers today, but also laying the groundwork for future generations. Their efforts are paving the way for equality, fairness, and opportunity for all workers in the public service and beyond.
I am profoundly honored and humbled to be the recipient of this year's Nation Builders Award for Social Justice. This recognition is not mine alone. It belongs to every person who has stood alongside me, believed in this mission, and fought for a fairer, more just society for all Canadians. But first and foremost, I must give thanks to God, who has guided my steps, provided me with the strength, and opened doors that at times seemed impossible to unblock. To my family, I want to express my deep gratitude to you for the sacrifices that you've made, for your understanding and for your support. I remember calling on many workers to join the fight, but most were too damaged from the trauma that they'd endured. That's why I'm really grateful to the 12 individuals from across the public service that stood with me. Some of them are here tonight, so I want to acknowledge them. Elaine, Bernadette, Kathy, Michelle, Wagner, Stuart, Marcia, Monica, Carol, Dwayne, Daniel, and Jennifer. You answered a call that many could not. I want to also express my deepest thanks to our incredible legal counsel led by Courtney Betty, Hugh Scher, Glenn Hotz, and Mayor Mackey for taking on a case that many lawyers wouldn't, because you believed in justice and fairness. To the Black Class Action Secretariat Board of Directors, our advisory board, volunteers, as well as the thousands of workers that we represent, and Canada's labor movement who joined us, thank you for supporting my vision, for trusting me with this service. Finally, I'd like to thank the Canadian Congress on Diversity and Inclusion for this incredible honor. Alex Ihama, thank you. You've continued year after year in ensuring that we have a platform to be celebrated and recognized. I am reminded of the words of Nelson Mandela, who said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." So let us continue to believe in the impossible, to fight for what is right, and to build a world where equality, justice, and fairness are not just aspirations, but realities for every single person. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.